You're watching Anzac Day 2020 here on 7. Next, we're taking you to a service on the New South Wales North Coast. Knowing this year we must observe social distancing rules, a team of Coffs Harbour volunteers joined to create this very special Anzac Day presentation.
Now, the idea was from Scott Seckham, who's a medically retired combat engineer with the Australian Defence Force. He enlisted the help of Kiwi news cameraman Carl Hands and local journalist Terry Allen. The concept really quickly took off, with many people right around Australia and the world offering to make a contribution to the service, including Victoria Cross recipient Ben Roberts-Smith and some very special guests.
Nanyara, Andu, Angayi, Narawa, Wirrachin, Anzac, Rungi, 2020. As we acknowledge the traditional custodians and pay respect to our elders, past and present, of the First Peoples of Australia and New Zealand, we pay respect to the ancestors of those whose origins started in another country. Today, as we come together unified, we reflect and we remember and we honour our Anzac warriors and their families for the sacrifice and the suffering they endured for each and every one of us so we could be free.
It was 18 minutes past 4 on the morning of Sunday the 25th of April, when the first boat grounded. So far, not a shot had been fired by the enemy. Colonel McLagan's orders to his brigade were that shots, if possible, were not to be fired till daybreak, but the business was to be carried through with the bayonet. The men leapt into the water, and the first of them had just reached the beach when fire was opened on them from the trenches on the foothills which rise immediately from the beach. It is impossible to say exactly how many of the enemy were holding this particular portion of the coast, perhaps 500 to 1,000. By the time the first part of the main body was forming up on the beach, the Turks had brought up their troops from the other side of the peninsula, and a fierce attack began, which lasted all day. As fresh troops arrived on the beach, they were in most cases sent straight into the firing line. The issue cannot be in doubt, but one knows that even if it were, nothing could take away from the Australian and New Zealand infantry the fame of last Sunday's fighting.
Aid! Right by the left! Quick! Out! Left, right, left, right, left, right, left! Left, right, left, right, left, right, left! Parade! Halt! Right, well advanced! Left! Turn! Anzac Day 2020 Parade assembled, sir!
Good morning and welcome to Anzac Day 2020 Live. Wherever you are and whatever your background, thank you for making the effort for joining us on this special occasion. It would not be our usual practice to isolate ourselves from each other on such an auspicious occasion, but it must be that way if we are to defeat our common enemy, COVID-19. And so we live in a time of sacrifices. But our sacrifice today is unlike that of a century ago, when the youth of our two nations, Australia and New Zealand, travelled to Europe to fight in the Great War. Just weeks into that bloody conflict, the names of the dead began appearing in British newspapers, and along with them, a small poem known as For the Fallen by the British author Lawrence Binyon. That's largely been forgotten, but the fourth stanza of that poem has become so famous, so well known, it's been recited at Remembrance Day services for the last 100 years. It's simply called the Ode.
With proud thanksgiving, a mother for her children, Australia mourns for her dead across the sea. Flesh of her flesh they were, spirit of her spirit, fallen in the cause of the free. Solemn, the drums thrill, death august and royal, sing sorrow up into immortal spheres. There is music in the midst of desolation, and a glory that shines upon our tears. They went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. They mingle not with their laughing comrades again. They sit no more at familiar tables of home. They have no lot in our labor of the daytime. They sleep beyond our coastline's foam. But where our desires are, and our hopes profound, felt as a wellspring that is hidden from sight, to the innermost heart of their own land they are known, as the stars are known to the night, as the stars that shall be bright when we are dust, moving in marches upon the heavenly plain, as the stars that are starry in the time of our darkness, to the end. To the end, they remain.
And now would you welcome to our service a man whose military record needs very little introduction, recipient of the Victoria Cross and Medal of Gallantry, from 2 tours in Timor and 6 tours of Afghanistan, SAS Corporal Ben Roberts-Smith.
Thank you, Terry. To everyone logging in this morning from around Australia and New Zealand, welcome, and thank you for joining us in commemorating Anzac Day 2020. I'd like to begin by thanking our current serving members of the Australian and New Zealand military for their continuing service, and to all deployed personnel we send our very best wishes. To my fellow veterans, I thank you for your service, and I acknowledge all our military families who have and continue to sacrifice for their loved ones. As a veteran, Anzac Day holds a deep meaning for me. It is, of course, a time to commemorate the fallen and pay our respects to their loved ones who are left behind. It is also a time to acknowledge the scars of service and the damage that is sustained by those who make it through. It is important on days like today that while we put our faith in institutions, we recognise that it is the people that build them, the men and women who choose service before self, Australians that are willing to lay down their lives to enhance and protect this great nation. Anzac Day is not just about commemorating our military history. It is about remembering who we are as a people. Growing up as a small boy in Western Australia, I can remember my parents taking me to attend Anzac Day services in Perth. Like most, I watched in awe as these men and women who had served their country marched by with their chests adorned with rows of swinging medals. The notion that these Australians were prepared to sacrifice themselves for our country and our way of life was both humbling and inspiring. What Anzac Day provides us is an opportunity for everyday Australians to not only acknowledge the service and sacrifice of our veterans and military personnel, but to acknowledge the role that those first Anzacs played in shaping our culture. The values that were forged on the beaches at Gallipoli and on the Western Front would become the very values that we as Australians hold dear. Our sense of mateship, that we will never let a mate down, that you would sacrifice yourself to ensure your mate comes home. Our sense of fairness, that the colour of your skin, your religion, sex or sexual orientation doesn't matter, because we are all Australians. Everybody gets a fair go. Our sense of determination, that we will never give up. We will find a way through any hardship, and through adversity, we will thrive together. These are the values that all Australians know intrinsically. They are in our DNA. They are what we are recognised for around the world. Like our ancestors just over 100 years ago, today we are being tested by a new global threat. The coronavirus has fundamentally changed the world we live in and our way of life. As each of us is asked to rise to this new challenge, we should look to those values born out of conflict and blood, because it is those values that will see us through this time. In doing so, we will face this latest challenge the way Australians meet all adversity, together as one. It is our strength, and like those before us, it will see us through the darkest of days. On this Anzac Day, it is our responsibility to honour those who have fought and died for us by living up to the values they instilled in us. Never let each other down. Give everyone a fair go, and never ever give up. These are the things that we must remember, lest we forget.
Ben Roberts-Smith, thank you. You know, for many who have served in the Australian Defence Forces in the frontline areas, a pre-operational routine involved the recital of the Lord's Prayer. This small excerpt from probably the most famous of Jesus' teachings, the Sermon on the Mount, has been a companion and a comfort to many in the theatre of war. And now to recite the Lord's Prayer, Australian Defence Force Chaplain, Reverend Dr. Graham Whelan, OAM.
Let us pray. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, for ever and ever. Amen.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would ask you to be upstanding for the last post, the Ode, and a minute's silence. That minute's silence will be ended by the playing of Reveille.
Parade will face the west. Left, 10.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
Stay out! Turn!
And now, ladies and gentlemen, would you remain upstanding for the Australian National Anthem?
Parade will advance! Aft! Turn!
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
E hoa atua onya iwi matora atafakaronga e aroha noa kia hua ko te pai kia tautoa tawhai mana a kiti a mai e a te aroa. God of nations, at thy feet, in the bonds of love we meet. Hear our voices, we entreat. God, defend our free land. God, Pacific's triple star, from the shafts of strife and war, make her praises heard afar. God, defend New Zealand.
And now, as we draw our service to a close, an Australian classic sung by an Australian icon, John Williamson, AM.
Good morning. As the sun comes up over the Numbamba Valley, today I'm thinking of the Anzacs, the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, whose bravery, resilience and toughness still gives backbone to our armed forces today. I've written a couple of songs about it, and I've also recorded Eric Bogle's And the Band Played Walser Matilda. And Walser Matilda, I believe, still should be played today, because after all, that's the song that reminded our diggers of home when they were in the trenches. And this morning I'm also thinking of those brave young men and women who have given their all for our country since that time. Thank you.
Hey, true blue, don't say you've gone. Say you've knocked off for a smoker and you'll be back later on. Hey, true blue. Hey, true blue. Give it to me straight, face to face. Are you really disappearing? Just another dying race. Hey, true blue. True blue. Is it me and you? Is it mom and dad? Is it a cockatoo? Is it standing by your mate when he's in a fight? Or will she be right? True blue, I'm asking you. Hey, true blue, can you bear the load? Will you tie it up with wire just to keep the show on the road? Hey, true blue. Hey, true blue. And be fitting. Is your heart still there? If they sell us out like sponge cake, do you really care? Hey, true blue. True blue. Is it me and you? Is it mom and dad? Is it a cockatoo? Is it standing by your mate when she's in a fight? Or will she be right? True blue, I'm asking you. Is it me and you? Is it mom and dad? Is it a cockatoo? Is it standing by your mate when he's in a fight? Or will she be right? True blue.
And now, as we bring our service to a close, we pay tribute to all those who have made the ultimate sacrifice, to veterans past and present, and to all those currently on deployment in the Australian Defence Forces and the New Zealand Defence Forces, and those on the front line today fighting COVID-19, our medical staff, the SES and first responders. And thank you to you around Australia and New Zealand, and even farther afield watching in on Anzac Day 2020. May that generation inspire this generation.
Parade! Left! And right!
There once was a jolly swag camped by a billabong under the shade of a coolabah tree. And he sang as he watched and waited till his belly boiled. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Down came a jumbuck to drink at the billabong, Up got the swaggy and grabbed him with glee, and he sang as he stowed that jumbuck in his tucker bag. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, you'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. And he sang as he stowed that jumbuck in his tucker bag. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Down came the squatter, mounted on his thoroughbred. Up came the troopers, 1, 2, 3. Who's the jolly jumbuck you've got in your tucker bag? You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, you'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Who's the jolly jumbuck you've got in your tucker bag? You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. I've got the swaggy and jumped into the billabong. You'll never catch me alive, said he, and his ghost may be heard as you pass by that billabong. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, you'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. And his ghost may be heard as you pass by that billabong. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, you'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. And he sang as he watched and waited till his weary boiled. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Waltzing Matilda, with me, and he sang as he watched and waited till his belly boiled. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me.
What a way to start Anzac Day. If there's one thing that'll make you feel proud to be an Australian
Doesn't
today,
it?
it's
The
the last
pictures are
27
just
minutes of TV.
beautiful.
Beautifully done.